I grew up in church. Me, I'm a church kid. Like my dad was a reverend in the Anglican church.
Oh,
So me, I grew up confirmed, baptized, spat on, all the things, like I was like a church kid like this, until I went to high school. But then just before Form 4 ended, my mom told me about this Christian camp. And the guy preached. Then I found myself going to the front. I looked around. I was the only guy. Paul says, I've been crucified in Christ. I no longer live. Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God. So Paul is really saying, I've no life. My life is Jesus living in me. What I'd say to somebody at the beginning of a year is, man, surrender it's what Christianity was meant to be. We almost think that we can serve Jesus with hands like this. The true gesture, we always do this, even in church when you're surrendering. What does this mean? It means everything I am, everything I have, everything I hope to be, it's yours. We have such a limited perspective of who we are. Because we're not of this world. In heaven, the streets are paved with gold. The stuff people are slaving and laboring to fill their pockets with is tarmac in heaven. Like, why would I want to spend my life chasing things that don't last? God's plan for you, this is what I tell people, God's plan for you is always bigger than your plan for yourself. Discipleship is actually the core business of human beings on earth. It is for me to reproduce the life of Jesus that Jesus has put in me in someone else. The reason why we have so many marriages struggling in the church today is because we don't believe in discipleship. We believe in classes. We mistake these two statements. Make disciples. That's a command. You make disciples. And then he says, who will build the church? He says, I will build my church. But what do we normally do as Christians? We build the church and then we hope Jesus makes disciples, Life has seasons. And what you did in your 20s should be a platform for what you do in your 30s. What you do in your 30s should be a platform for what you do in your 40s. So you don't reinvent yourself and start again every decade. I feel like for us as Christians, we've neglected the manual. And we're trying to do money the way the world does money. And what we've not understood is the way the world does money actually enslaves. It doesn't create freedom. The miraculous is not achieved. You don't enter the miraculous through proclaiming and through decreeing and proclaiming. No, you enter the miraculous through surrender. Now, outside the room, there had been a donkey. It had been there the whole time we were there. Very quiet, just kulaiing grass, very content. The minute I touched Mavuno, that thing just let out a shout. I'd never had a donkey doing that, but it was even scary. I was like, what is that? And there was nothing happening. It was just screaming.
Yo, what's up, good people, man? First, thank you so much for always joining us for the DJ Moz podcast. We do not take it for granted, man. I'm always excited to be able to have wonderful guests joining me for conversations. People who are known, other people who are not known, but they are known in their circles. And, just being able to have genuine, honest conversations with them. So, man, as you continue digging in and enjoying the podcast, we'd like to encourage you to go ahead and support us, man. This is only possible through your love and through your support. Pray for us, talk about us, but then also you can go ahead and, go a step further and support us financially. And you can do that by, our account number and the till number. They're all, is it till number? No, the pay bill number and the account numbers iko hapa hivi, si ndio? Please do go ahead and support us financially, because this encourages us, it allows us to be able to pay our bills and to continue hooking you up with more great content, si ndio? Thank you so much for your love. In the meantime, man, let's continue in our conversations today hapa hivi on the DJ Moz podcast. So karibu.
Asante, bro.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man. Yeah, it's a good year. It's a good year, 2026.
It has to be.
It's a good year.
It has to be, man. So for me, the reason why I'm saying it has to be a good year. So towards the end of last year, like the very last week, the scripture that God gave me was Isaiah 61. And you know how you read it and you're like, in fact, I verbally asked him, God, are you sure this is the word ama ni mimi najiambia mimi mwenyewe? So like I believe with everything in me that this is definitely going to be a good year. And actually I want to say a good season. Yeah.
I completely resonate.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation. Who did we have just towards the end of last year? We're talking about seasons, and I remember saying that December, many of us celebrate with January 1st as, God is going to do something new in that season. But I'm like, I think it's also good for us to remember that God is not necessarily governed by our
by our calendar.
by our calendar
that we humans put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, he's not limited.
No.
But because we are, maybe that's how we think like that.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
yes. And it's always good to be able to understand the times and seasons. Because once you understand the seasons, the good thing with the Happy New Year is guys are like, man, finally, that year was so tough.
Yeah, exactly. So it's almost like we can try again.
Yes.
We can hope again.
Yes.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming for the podcast,
Hey,
Bana.
my guy, it's so good, man. I mean, this is the first podcast where I've not been told what I'm coming to talk about. No prep, just show.
Just show up. That's the best thing about it.
Yeah.
Because then the conversations
we just talk.
They're just authentic, man.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I love one of the things I absolutely love and admire about you is at least I've had the opportunity to be in your life, even if not there necessarily inside, but around since I joined Chapel, like I think in 2002.
Wow. You're not as young as you look, man.
No.
That's a while back. 2002.
Yes.
Yeah.
At Mamlaka. So
yeah.
Just being able to
we'd just come back because I'd gone to study abroad.
Yeah.
So my wife and I had just come back. We came back in 2001, actually, just beginning of 2001. And so we'd been at Chapel before, but then now we went for about 5.5, 6 years.
Yeah.
Then came back.
Yeah. And from my understanding, were you guys amongst like the first interns at Nairobi Chapel?
We were. I mean, we were like index number 3 and 4.
You and Carol.
So there's somebody, and then there's a guy. And then I called William, and then now Pastor Janet. Pastor Janet, Nairobi Chapel.
Yeah.
And then for me, and then Carol. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
So yeah, Chapel was like 30 people when we showed up.
Yeah.
We were university students. So, I mean, we were, like, for me, it was like I was a new Christian. So I started going to Chapel. I used to go to Bapo when I became born again. But then it was like, man, it's so easy to wake up and go to Chapel. It's just next to uni there. I was like, it wasn't I was called. It was too far to go to Bapo. So I just started going to Chapel, made friends, connected with a lot of people. It changed my life completely.
Wow.
Completely, yes. Because I started first year uni. Yeah.
That's when you started going to Nairobi.
That's when I started going to Nairobi.
But of course, at that time, they didn't have programs like SALT.
No, we started SALT.
Oh.
Yeah, it was actually SALT was started by my wife. She was the first, she was a visionary behind it.
No way. Yeah, this is new for me now.
So when we finished uni, we did 3 years of uni.
Yeah.
And of course, because it was a small church, everybody was doing everything.
Yeah.
So it was almost like, it was such a good experience because, like, for me, that was my discipleship. Like, just being with believers. It was the first time I'd been in a place like this where I was doing ministry.
Yeah.
I learned how to play guitar, started playing in the worship team.
Yeah.
Like, it was like those ones where, I don't know if you've ever been to a church where, like, everyone, like, you all do worship.
Yeah.
And then now you look at each other and you're like, some of you guys go down because we're too many of us on stage. There are no guys, but now we're a small church. So we started like that. But then after 3 years, now Pastor Oscar, who's Bishop Oscar now, he invited me to join the internship.
Yeah.
And so that's when I now joined ministry. And but before that, we were still in ministry because now we were doing college outreach.
Yeah.
We were doing high school outreach. We were doing a lot of stuff now under him, just as college students.
Wow.
And so SALT was actually now for us just saying, how do we start a fellow? We could see that a lot of guys either went to CU or didn't go.
Yeah.
There was no kind of middle space because CU was phenomenal. But then the problem with it is if you're from like city kids, they found it very hard to fit in. And for me, who was a city kid who was a new Christian, I had no Christian background. I had a Christian background because I grew up in a Christian home, but I'd not been involved in ministry or anything like that. It was a hard fit.
Yeah.
So then the thought was, why don't we start something that would be for especially reaching these kids from the city who need Jesus, but they won't fit in the culture.
Yeah.
And so that's how we started SALT.
And when you started, did you call it Serving a Living Transformer?
Serving a Living Transformer.
From the very...
That was the first name we gave it, yeah.
Oh my God.
We had a lot of... Our first group of students we were reaching were engineers. So Kina Pastor Kiama, he's probably the one you would know. Those were like our first years we went. And so we did a first year's outreach. We had a barbecue for them.
Yeah.
And now started doing a fellowship, discipling them.
Yeah.
So now, because there were so many engineers, that's where the word transformer came from. We're like, so yeah, but we wanted to be salt and light, and then we were just like, no, let's call it salt. And then now I think as we were brainstorming that, Serving a Living Transformer became the name from the onset.
That's brilliant because I think one of the things I've loved about this is how you intentionally thought about reaching out to freshers.
Yeah.
By even doing a barbecue for them.
We had a movie night, guy. We had it was really, and it was a really good thing. I mean, what we did, in fact, was such a cool thing. And I think it's something that many churches could still do today.
Yeah.
We printed flyers that explained where, because us guys were in the uni, so we knew how hard it is for a fresher to discover where the dining hall is, where the halls are, where the classes are. So we actually drew a map. And then we created a flyer with it. So this was my wife and I, because we were both interns at the time. That time we had become interns. So we created this flyers.
Yeah.
Got them printed. Then we went we went as a bunch of us to orientation.
Yeah.
And we acted like we're university officials. So when a parent has finished signing in, we'd give you a flyer and tell you, there's something here. This is helpful. This is something that helps you know your way around campus.
Yeah.
And then it had something that said Nairobi Chapel.
Yeah.
So the parents would ask, so what's Nairobi Chapel? So, we're a church. We're actually just up the hill up here. So the parents, you're leaving your child in University of Nairobi. You're coming from Shags. You've never, or from far. Yeah? So parents would be like, these are good people.
Yes.
Then we'd tell them, we'll help you carry your bags to your home. So we'd walk with the parents. We'd be telling them how university life is. And then we'd say, tonight we actually have a barbecue to invite freshers. The parents would be like, Nikuone huko. By the way, uende. And when they came, they stuck. People would come and actually get stuck. It was a cool place to be. We had a good hangout. We had the word taught every week. Great worship.
Yeah.
And the thing grew. I mean, by the time we did it, and then we left the country to go stay. When we came back, there were like 1,000 students meeting every night.
Yeah.
Every Thursday night.
Yes, I remember, and it still goes on Thursday night.
It still goes on till today. Yeah.
That's a good success program, and you definitely have been very creative and intentional in terms of how to engage culture in a relevant way.
So you see, like for me, because I grew up in church. Me, I'm a church kid. Like my dad was a reverend in the Anglican church.
Oh, wow.
So me, I grew up confirmed, baptized, spat on, all the things. Like I was like a church kid like this, until I went to high school.
Yeah,
and because of the way that the church wasn't able to engage me in high school, I stopped going. Because high school, you have to have a reason beyond my parents go to church.
Yes.
And so I stopped going to church. And I was still, in my mind, I was a Christian, but I actually wasn't saved. So it was only I went to a Christian camp. When I was finishing Form 4, by the way, high school I was a mess.
Wow.
Like I was a real mess. Drinking, sneaking out of school. I went to Nairobi school. Doing all the things you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But then just before Form 4 ended, my mom told me about this Christian camp. So of course I was not planning to go, but then she said that there were girls. I had a rumor that there were very beautiful girls who go for that camp. So I was like, sawa. It sounds like a plan. A week after exams, I don't have a plan. So I was like, sign me up.
This December now.
December.
Yeah.
Form 4, finished exams, done and dusted.
Wow.
But I was like, this first week I need to rest. Coast sounds nice. A cheap coast plot.
Yes.
That my parents are paying for, and it's a camp.
Yeah.
Little did I know that what the setup. It was a Word of Life camp. I didn't know what a setup that was. So I went to Wadi. Day 3, there was a guy called Joe. So Joe had been a guy. He was a serious drug dealer, like a bad boy.
Wow.
Like me, I was unsaved and I was not a good boy. But even among us unsaved guys, now they were bad boys.
Yeah, they're those guys you could be like,
Joe was a bad boy.
This guy's next level.
In fact, I was looking at him, I'm like, what is this guy doing in this Christian camp? He's not supposed to be here. So Joe, day 2 of camp, Tuesday, the guy will cook us. There's a meeting, there's a thingy, the guy does an altar call. People stream down, then Joe comes. People are so excited. People are crying. They're happy. They're clapping.
Wow.
In my mind, I was so angry. Because me, I'm like, this guy is conning people, bana. He's just doing this to get chicks. I don't know why I felt it was my job to protect people in that camp. I was like, this guy, what's wrong? Like, how can this guy be accepted by these people?
Yeah.
That night, I didn't sleep. Because I was angry. Then I became angry at God. Like, you mean that guy is saved? Like, if that guy can be saved, what is this salvation thing? You know?
Because you knew him before.
Like, I'm like, you can't just put up your hand and all of a sudden now you're a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is too cheap. Like, there's something wrong.
Oh, man.
So I was so annoyed. My camp counselor now noticed. And he came. And he's the one who just explained to me and told me, okay, this thing is by grace. I mean, you don't earn it.
Yeah.
But still my mind I was really wrestling that day.
Yeah.
So that Gioni, the Reverend came. It was a pastor called Pastor Matthew Mwalo. He was just an incredible preacher of God's word.
Yeah.
ASC pastor, still just retired, I think, recently.
Yes.
And the guy preached, I don't remember what he preached about. But I just kumbuka at the end, he did an altar call, like the one the night before.
Yeah.
The night before might have been someone like Pastor Ambrose or one of those.
Yeah.
Because there are some really good youth preachers those days. Huh?
So
I don't know, I just found myself putting my hand up. I was shocked. I wasn't expecting to put up my hand. Then I found myself going to the front. So as I was going, I don't know, in my mind, I had that video of how Joe went, how guys followed. There was like a whole mass of guys who got saved. So me, I was thinking, okay, Tukoengi. I looked around. I was the only guy. That night, I think I'm the only guy who got saved. Forward. It was so embarrassing. I was the only guy there. So I was laid on hands. I was prayed for, gave my life to Christ.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because my life completely changed. I didn't expect it to.
Yeah.
But I actually noticed I started thinking different. I hadn't planned it, but I just found when I went back, I couldn't hang out with my friends anymore.
Wow.
Guys were waiting for me so we can go clubbing. I just couldn't anymore.
Wow.
And something changed in my life. So back to the question you asked about that passion for relevant church.
Yeah.
I think what happened now is when I was in uni, I began to realize how many of my friends, because I started playing rugby. I used to play for Mean Machine.
Yeah.
And I realized these guys don't come to church and they don't think church is relevant.
Yeah.
And many times, even when you invite them to church, they'll come one Sunday because of the friendship.
Yeah.
And then they won't come again. So I think that's what really began to think in my mind, because I'm like, why is it that these guys don't come to church? And for me, Chapel was such a cool church. It was such a with it church.
Yeah.
But see now the problem...
Even the 30 of you.
Yeah, even with the 30. I mean, the music was... Because Bishop was a young pastor.
Yeah.
He understood young people. The music was good. So I remember just wondering, why wouldn't they come? This is such a cool church.
Yeah.
But now I was comparing it with my Anglican church where I'd come from.
Yeah.
So it was, of course, cool.
Yeah.
But I wasn't putting myself in the shoes of these guys who have no church background. So now what helped me was my wife. Because my wife, Carol, she didn't come from a Christian background. Them, they didn't go to church. They didn't grow up in church. Even Easter and Christmas,
no church.
They didn't go to church. I mean, I didn't even know there were Kenyans like that, by the way.
I'm shocked,
I thought everybody went to church.
Yeah.
But I realized, actually, she didn't.
Wow.
And so she's the one who helped me begin to answer that question. Because I'd ask her, why aren't these guys coming back? And she began to tell me, you don't understand how hard Christian culture is to understand. Like, you guys have your language.
Yeah.
You have your songs. Your music doesn't sound like anything out there. Because those days, Christian music was completely Christian music. Yeah. Right? It was its own genre.
Tadakina Maranatha.
Yeah, Maranatha, Sijui Integrity. But it's her, she's in the club. She's listening to R&B. So she's coming to church and she said, it took me a while. It's because I had such a hunger for God. I actually tolerated church until I could understand it. But if somebody doesn't come with that hunger, they won't stay.
Yeah.
So that's what now began to make me think, how do we... What would it take? Yeah. And I remember sitting down with some of her friends. She actually brought some of her friends to talk to me. And we actually asked them that question. Why don't you like church? And what kind of church would you go to? You ask a non-Christian that. I'm telling you, I didn't expect the answers I got. Like, they actually had opinions, strong opinions. Why they didn't like church, why church was fake, and what would it take for them to go to a church? What kind of church would you like?
Yeah.
So I realized, when you go fishing, you don't take the bait of the food you like. You like KFC, so that's what you're going to put on your road. No, you don't do that. You go, you ask the fish, you figure out what the fish like. That's what you give them. And that's what now began to give my heart that hunger for. What would church look like if it was relevant, if it was speaking the language of these guys?
And for the sake of the guys who are watching or listening to this podcast, your background was not when you were in Nairobi, University of Nairobi.
No, I was studying biochemistry. That was my background. That's what my wife was studying as well. So we're both scientists. So no desire to be in ministry was not even a plan. It was not even a thing. I was not even thinking about that.
And so when you finish and you graduate, at that point, did you know that this is what God was calling you to?
No, completely. I can't even lie. There was no desire. Like, honestly, if you gave me a list of 100 careers, Pasi would not have been there. I'd pick 100 things before I picked being a pastor. It was not even something I was thinking about. So what happened? I think God tricked me using Bishop Oscar. So we used to call him Pastor Oscar. Pastor Oscar comes up and is like, I really want you to apply for this internship year. And for me, I'm like, let me pray about it. Now, that thing, that thing you tell your Pasi when you have no intention
to pray.
You're just like, let me pray. But in your heart, there's no way.
You just want to finish the conversation.
I had a plan. My plan was to be a rich pharmacist. That was my plan in life. I had already pangad which university I'm going for, etc., etc. So I had no plan for that. So when you ask me, it's just that you don't tell your Pasi Z. Because he might go and pray and do things to you. So you're like, all right, let me just say, let me pray about it. Huh? So, but then now, unknown to me, he goes and asks Carol, because we were dating then. And we're just finishing university, we're in a relationship. So he asks her, I want you to pray about being in internship. Giving a year to the Lord, not going on to work or anything, just give a year and serve in church. Now, her, remember, she didn't grow up in a Christian home. So she wasn't jaded like me about Christianity. She's like, of course, I don't need to pray. Let's do this. So she came and told me later, by the way, you wouldn't believe it. Talk to Pasi. I'm doing this internship. And I was so mad because I was like, you didn't even talk to me, man. Because I had plans. I was going to go abroad. I had plans to go and do my master's. I'd already been accepted. And I thought she was also going to do her master's. And then now after a few years, how you've already planned in your mind after a few years and we'll get married, Nini.
And they're rolling in the dough.
We'll have money. So now this chick has said she's doing internship. That means she's locked here for a year. So I remember I was pissed. Then I just had to now do my calculations of if I go abroad and I leave her alone. Now I'd seen guys slicing their best friends. I'd seen guys where you leave a chick and then you come back, she's gone. So I had to actually think, is this something I want to do? This is anyhow a 20-something year old mind works. So I decided, okay, let me postpone my plan. So I came and told Pasi, I've prayed about that thing you've told me. I really feel God wants me to do this. It was a lie. There's no God in that thing. It was a chick. So I entered ministry because of my mama, to be honest. So that year, we did ministry, but it was a total immersion. And that's one thing I love about what Bishop Oscar did. He really threw us in the deep end. It's like you did everything. We did schools outreach. We went and preached in all the challenge weekends. We were like the preachers for them. We had a van. We just load it up with equipment, turn a thing on and just preach. People would come to Christ, figure out how to disciple. It was a crazy year. We did college outreach. That's when now we're doing SALT and those campus outreaches. It was a really good year. And every time I would preach, every time I'd speak people would come up and say, hey, Pasi, that was amazing. And I'd be like, hey, dude, but I'm not a Pasi. Me, I'm an intern.
I'm on countdown.
Countdown 1 year, I'm out. But I think God was now just poking my heart. So I feel like what happened is now in the middle of that year, I had an encounter. I went to Garissa. There's a ministry called Shipful Ministry. And we were supposed to do, so again, Pasi with his full hands-on ministry experience, he told us, I want you to do a short-term mission and take university students and just take them somewhere, a difficult place, and just preach the gospel. So now that's his instruction. Now you figure it out. I'm telling you, it was such an incredible experience.
Wow.
It's how I grew as a leader. So now you have to now go first of all read a book on what, and those days there was no Google.
Yeah.
So you have to go to a library, find out what is short-term mission. How do you plan it? How do you even get people to agree? So we actually figured the thing out, and we got 10 students to agree to fundraise, and we went to Garissa.
Yeah.
For I think it was for 2 weeks.
Bro.
Those days Garissa was dangerous, bandits, the works, huh?
And the roads were not like they are
The roads
now.
were not like they were. I mean, in fact, even and in the bus there'd be a guy carrying a cop carrying an AK-47, you know, because bandits could strike anytime. We went. It was an incredible time. We did crazy ministry. I remember we had so many adventures on that ministry. As a young, somebody who had not been a Christian that many years, huh? It was so revolutionary. I remember just the villagers would go and help them, because you're sharing the gospel. You go and help them dig in their shamba. When it's time for a break, they all get their cups. They dig water out of they dip it into the river, and they just pass cups around. You look in that cup, you just see my things swimming inside. But now we had read these books that when you're a missionary, you take what you're given.
Yeah.
So you guy would say, hold on, we haven't prayed. You pray for water. My guy, you pray for that water.
Because you're like,
we could die, and then you drink the water. And nothing happened to us. Huh?
Wow.
So, but anyway, in the middle of that mission, there was a day when those guys said, we want you to fast. I'd never fasted in my life. I didn't even know what fasting was. And they were like, today we're not eating until 6. So when we wake up, Kesho, we'll have chapel and then we'll pray. So we had chapel. Then guys were like, today is a day of surrender. The guy read some scriptures about surrender. Then he's like, everybody go to a corner of the building. Write the things that you need to surrender to God, and then surrender them. And that's it. That was the instruction. Wow. You guys, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. We're being told write a list and pray over it until 6 in the journey. I'm like, man, I'm 22, but what is it that I can surrender to God?
Yeah.
That I have such few things. I'm such a broke guy.
It's not
so
about
my
money.
plan was, I'm just going to write these few things, pray, and then I'll sneak out and go visit Garissa town. I'd seen some things I needed to so I was like, I'll sneak out, because I was like, first of all, this fasting thing, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So that was my plan. And I was a leader, by the way. What a horrible leader I was, huh? So I sit down, I write my list. I just write, now what do I have? Clothes. I was still living in my parents' house, so I'm like a broke guy.
You have nothing to surrender.
You have nothing, but I'm like yours. My kicks. I'm just writing the things that a 20-year-old, 22-year-old is writing. Like these are important things to me. Then, as I was writing, I think I just started getting insights. I think now I look back, I'm like the Holy Spirit was showing me. So I realized my relationship, my desire to be famous was actually a thing. Like it was something that defined me. So I wrote it down. My desire to be rich, like I would do anything to be rich. I had to write that down. So now things started showing up that I didn't think. I realized I owned a lot of stuff. My ambitions, my plans, my girlfriend. So I actually was writing all these things. So I realized, man, this thing is a long list. So I thought, okay, so I had like a strategy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make the easiest ones to surrender first, and then I'll make it just, easiest to hardest. So I wrote the list. So I decided, let me just pray. So I started praying, and you get like, I won't lie, it's like the Holy Spirit just settled there, wouldn't let me go. And everything that I was trying to pray, it would just be like my life is flashing before my eyes. And it's like you're giving it up. You're never going to have this thing again. You will never own it. So it was hard. Huh? I felt like it was like my fingers just being pried off those things.
Yeah.
At some point, I began crying. Wow. Like it was so painful. And I felt I can't leave. I have to surrender these things.
Yeah.
So I'm praying, I'm surrendering the things. Then I finally finished. Huh? And I was like, wow, that was hard. Then I just found a guy tapped me. And he was like, where have you been? We've been looking for you, but it's past 6. Like
Bro.
the day had gone. I took a whole day. I didn't realize. That was my first day. That was my first encounter with the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
Like God just arrested me. A whole day. Like the time had passed, I had not even noticed because I'd been wrestling with God. So I left that room, and that was the most defining event of my life apart from getting saved. Because from that day, I realized, I was 22 years old, I realized I own nothing. Like there's nothing, my hands were like this. I don't own a thing.
Yeah.
I was extremely poor. You know, when you don't know anything, you're the poorest guy in the world. Huh?
Yeah.
But instead of feeling afraid, instead of feeling panicked about it, I actually had a sense of peace. Like I felt so peaceful.
Yeah.
And that's the day it hit me. People have fear because they own stuff. If you own nothing, what can you take from me?
Yeah.
Yeah. You fear because you own stuff.
Yeah.
If even your life you've given it up, then what can you take? So I lost fear. That's a day when I lost fear.
Wow.
I tell guys, honestly, I don't fear anything. It's not because I'm such a cool guy. It's because I don't own it.
Yeah.
So if you take it, it's God's.
Yeah, it's not mine anyway.
So guys, check out me because my car is always somewhere unlocked somewhere. I leave my laptop. I'm like, that's God's thing.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm foolish or like I don't care, but I actually don't fear those things because things don't define me. So that was the most, and that's how, so the one thing God told me. So after that, I had God's voice. I'd never had God's voice before. And I feel like when my hands were like this, then God was free to speak. So the next morning I had God tell me two things. He said, number one, you will never be a rich pharmacist.
Give that dream.
Just give it up. Just quit. That thing was never mine.
Yeah.
It was never supposed to be for you.
Yeah.
So quit. Number two, you'll be a pastor. I was like, what? Yeah. Like I actually had like, you will be a pastor. I knew. Like I just came out of that quiet time knowing I'm going to be a pastor the rest of my life. And then number three, marry your girlfriend.
Wow.
Like, you guy. Like a certainty. Like I was so sure we're going to get married when we were 30. I had even planned it. It's like, marry her now.
Yeah.
I was like, heck no. I mean, like, I was like, Z, how? I don't even have
nothing.
jobs, man.
Yeah.
I don't even have a job. What do you tell? Like, how do I tell her father?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have money. Like, it was so interesting. God just gave me those three instructions. And the hardest one for me was not being poor, was not, or being, not, because for me, it felt like I'd taken poverty.
Yeah.
It wasn't about being a pastor. It was that I needed to get married now. I was like, but I felt like it was an obedience space. It's like God was pushing something on me that he knew would be difficult.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't love the woman, but I just had nothing to offer.
Yeah.
So I struggled with that one. The other two I accepted immediately. That one I struggled with for maybe another 6 months. Huh? So a few months later, we were sent to Swaziland. So I tell you, Bishop, he had his way of preparing leaders. Huh?
Wow.
He was a genius. So he sent us for Pastor Janet and I, we went to Swaziland for a short-term mission.
Yeah.
And we were sent to different villages. So like we'd see each other once a month. It was for 3 months. Huh? So I was in a village where I knew nobody. And I was with an American kid who was my age. And the two of us were assigned to that village. And so we'd see our people every month.
Yeah.
So you're with guys the whole month. Like it was wild, huh? And we went to a Pentecostal church. I wasn't Pentecostal, remember I was Anglican.
Yeah.
So that's the first time I actually had an encounter where I saw people speaking in tongues. I saw people encountering the whole. I was so skeptical at first.
Yeah.
But later on, you know, it's like God wanted me to be immersed in that space to actually see these are genuine people. They're not making this stuff up. But there was a lady who she was a prophet. And in every service, she'd come up and say, I sense the Lord is saying this. And at the beginning, I'd be like, roll my eyes. But then I started noticing, man, her words are actually very accurate. Like she'd give people words and you'd see someone crying and it's like, it was my first encounter with prophecy.
Yeah.
So the last day after those 3 months, when I'm about to leave, when I was leaving and they were having something to celebrate us. So on the way to that lunch, this lady comes up to me, says, I have a word from the Lord for you. Now, I've not told anyone about my relationship in this church.
Yeah.
So it's as remote. Like even my American friend, I'd not told him about this kachik. And she says, that girl, marry her.
Bro. You can't ignore that one.
I still get chills thinking about that thing. It's
wow.
like, that girl, marry her. And God is saying she's going to be your partner. And she proceeded to give me a full prophecy about the kids we would have, what God was going to do through our ministry together, and that this was actually mission critical for me. And it's like, God's waiting on you to make that decision, guy. Immediately, I was like, done.
Hey, yeah.
I went to start shopping for a ring. Huh? So that's how So I ended up getting married I was 24 and I got married. Yeah, so broke.
6 years earlier.
Broke. I just gotten, honestly, I just gotten asked now after the internship to come on as a pastor in training.
Yeah.
So you get, I think I was earning like 15G or something like that per month.
What?
Still staying in my folks' house. So I first of all, I told God, if this thing is from you, I'm going to tell my dad. And if he doesn't check her, if he doesn't just burst out laughing at me, then I'll know you're in it.
Yeah.
So I had to tell my dad, hey, there's this girl. I feel like I really want to marry her and I want to do it now. And I was waiting for my dad to just react. He was like, hey, I know you're a prayerful man, huh? For you to say that, you must be serious. So, all right, tell me what we need to do. I was like, what? This is moving too fast, but so then I said, okay, I need a better fleece. This one is too easy.
Yeah.
So I said, her dad. Now, her dad wasn't a Christian. Very skeptical even about Christians.
Yeah.
These guys who are educated, makerere, could have been a professor. Very skeptical. Like pastors, that was not his thing.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to go talk to that guy. If that guy says yes,
then it's God is in this thing.
So first of all, I asked Carol to make an appointment for me.
Yeah.
The guy says, I don't meet young men. If you have something to say, come with your parents. Because I think she had told him what I want to say. So we go with my folks.
Yeah.
So the first thing that's crazy is my folks discover the dads used to work together. So like, oh my goodness. So they hit off. So I say, yeah, so me, I want to marry your daughter. The guy's like, all right, let's do this. Let's make it happen. I'm like, so I got married. I started working in Nairobi Chapel in October. My first job, out of college. I got married in April.
The following year.
Wow. So that's pretty much 6 months?
Yeah.
Of a job.
Oh, man.
I moved out of my parents' house on the day I got married.
Yeah.
My wife, hers even crazier because she didn't have a job until she got an interview 2 months before the wedding. It was Woolworths, some huge corporation.
Yeah.
They were going to hire her, give her a really good job. Then they told her it'll take a lot of travel. You might be based in and out of Kenya. So she actually told them, Z,
I can't
me, that's not what God has told. I thought she was crazy, but she was like, no, I don't have faith for that. She actually told them in the interview,
wow,
I'm called to ministry, so I can't do that.
Yeah.
So we thought she wasn't going to get a job. She got a job 2 weeks before the wedding with the British High Commission.
Wow.
And then in the interview, she told them, guys, I'm getting married in 2 weeks. So I need leave.
Immediately.
I think us guys were completely super entitled, I think. Huh? You guys, they gave her the full leave. Man. 2 weeks into the wedding, into a phenomenal job. She was earning a lot more than I was. So that's our story. That's kind of how our ministry journey began. That's how we ended up in ministry. We went and just now started serving. Served for 2 years as youth pastors.
Yeah.
Then went out of the country for 5 years to study. Came back, which is a whole story of God's grace.
Yeah.
Those days, nobody came back to Kenya. People, it was like, you're in the States, your visa,
place.
what? Last seen, But for us, we just felt God called us and we were sent. That's the beauty of being sent.
Yeah.
Chapel sent us.
Yeah.
So we're like, we can't go and betray. We're coming back. So, by the way, people in the States prayed for us, prayed against us, thought we were mad. Guys tried to cast out things from us, like, how are you going back?
Yes.
Because those were the last days of the Moi days when things were really hard in this country. And us guys were like, we don't know. We're going back, but God is there.
Yeah.
So we came back and Chapo took us back. And so, that's how our journey for ministry began.
You said something interesting earlier when you said, first I picked up, I think, a title of a book. I think you should write it. Maybe it's there. You say that you are a rebel leader.
I was. I really was. I was a bad boy. Yeah. I have a funny story about that.
Yeah.
Okay, you finish your question. I was
going to say, first you need to think about writing a book about being a rebel leader.
Being a rebel leader.
Yeah.
So when I got saved, I started doing internship at Nairobi Chapel.
Yeah.
And this is now, before we even got married. And I'm there. They used to have this thing they call Pastor of the Day. And so you're like, you're it. So you chill there. If people come in, they need prayer, they need counseling, you're it.
Yeah.
So this person comes and it's a lady. I see her. She's a chick. I know her. These are the chicks we used to rave with.
Yeah.
Those days. Huh? She knows the bad boy reputation.
Yeah.
So all this time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder what she's thinking, seeing me as the Pasi who's supposed to pray for her. So she came and sat in the office. I'm sitting on the other side of the table, and she starts giving me her problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I really feel bad about life. I'm feeling stressed. So me, I'm like, chick, like she's not seeing who I am.
Yeah.
So you know how it is, how when you meet someone in the place, you last saw them in a rave, then you're seeing them in church, your mind isn't computing it's the same person.
You don't expect,
So she gives me her issues, and I'm looking at her, and eventually I'm like, hold on, I need to tell her who I am, but so I stop her and I say, you don't recognize me. I say her name first.
Yeah.
So she's shocked because she hadn't told me her name. She's like, how does this? She's probably thinking I'm some spooky prophet or something. I told her, you don't know me. And I told her my name. And the chick checked out. First of all, you can see the shock.
Yeah.
Then she started laughing. She laughed. And then in the middle of laughing, she started crying.
Oh.
So me, I'm confused this whole time. I don't know, do I offer her tissues? What's going on? And then she finished and she says, can you lead me to Christ? I want to give my life to Christ.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, okay, we haven't even talked about Christ.
Yeah.
What makes you say that? She says, if God can save a guy like you.
Oh man.
She got saved because she saw me saved.
Wow.
You know. So when you talk about rebel leader, I was not a good guy. my badness made someone get saved when they saw me saved.
They're like, if God can do it for this guy.
God can do it for this guy. Yeah.
The other thing you talked about was how you sat down and you wrote down a list of things that you needed to surrender. And I'm just thinking we're at the beginning of the year, still in January, and there are many people who are probably thinking about, okay, God, what lies ahead?
Yeah.
And I just want to pick up on that and be like, maybe there are people who need to do what you were challenged to do.
Yeah. I wrote a book called The Genius of Surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the most important book I've ever written.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like my life changed so dramatically
mm-hmm.
from that night in Garissa, that
mm-hmm.
day when I surrendered.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's only now, much later when I'm older, that I was like, that's how my life changed.
Yeah.
Because I lived, from that point on, my life was like this.
Mm-hmm.
Which meant, Paul says, I've been crucified in Christ. I no longer live. Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul is really saying, I've no life.
Yeah.
My life is Jesus living in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is such a genius secret,
mm-hmm.
that when that happens in your life, God takes over.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. Because I no longer own it.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I have, I tell guys, I own like this.
Mm-hmm.
If God said today, give away your house. If God says, give away your car, give it.
Mm-hmm.
God says, give away those clothes, I'll give them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never owned anything since that time.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that is I can enjoy things without being owned by them, because they're never mine.
Yeah.
So what that meant is it removed my need to be needed.
Yeah.
It removed my need to compete.
Mm-hmm.
I tell guys, Mavuno is a beautiful church. I'm there because God allows me to be there. The day God tells me give it up, I'll ask him who.
Yeah.
It doesn't define me.
Yeah.
Ministry doesn't define me.
Mm-hmm.
My reputation doesn't define me. I don't care what people think about me. I honestly don't.
Yeah.
And it's not because I am a don't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I don't own my reputation.
Yeah.
It's surrendered. So I feel like when we do that, then God actually can do his best work in us.
Yeah.
And I've learned the genius of Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and all other things, they actually chase after you.
Yeah.
You don't chase things. Things chase you. We get depressed, we get anxious, we get fear.
Yeah.
Because we're chasing things that we're not getting.
Yeah.
But the minute I start chasing Jesus instead, then literally things chase me.
Yeah.
So, man, I think I've driven cars. I've driven some of the hottest cars. I've driven cars where I've been looking around to say, I hope there's no journalist who will take this picture, because this can be used against me. Pastor of these flashy pastors. Huh? I've driven those cars because friends gave them to me to drive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for me, the greatest joy was enjoying it when I needed it.
Yeah.
And then handing it back to somebody, because I don't need that responsibility. I don't need to own it.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived in homes that didn't, even now I tell people I live in a really nice house.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't define me.
Mm-hmm.
Because where God wants me to be is where I will be.
Yeah.
I don't hold my kids like this. They're his as well.
Yeah.
So what that means is, my guy, I've slept so well every night of my life. Because me, once I finish a meeting, I leave and I go.
Yeah.
And I don't carry things.
Yeah.
I don't carry my health. It's not mine. So I think what I'd say to somebody at the beginning of a year is, man, surrender it's what Christianity was meant to be. You know, we almost think that we can serve Jesus with hands like this.
Yeah.
You know, the true gesture, we always do this, even in church when you're surrendering. Yeah. What does this mean? It means everything I am, everything I have, everything I hope to be, it's yours. And that means he can take away whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But also the beauty is he can put whatever he needs to put.
Yeah.
And whatever he needs to put, it's always what's best for me.
Yes.
Yeah. It's always what's best for me.
The beauty about just listening to the first part about your life is, you know, you've gone through university, you had a really good career trajectory, as you had hoped to, you know, to pursue. But then you get to the place where you recklessly surrender your life to God, and you're like, you know, God, my life.
It's a good word, recklessly. Yeah, have it.
God, you know, have my life. Yeah. My life belongs to you. And then you see God doing all these incredible things in your life. I have a feeling that today we have fewer and fewer people who are surrendering their life in that nature to God and actually allowing their lives to be fully used or dedicated to serving God. And people have a fear for surrendering their life to God because they're like, hey, God is going to take me through another rough patch.
Yeah. We fear God. We fear surrender. And it's not,
Parents don't want their kids to get into ministry.
Exactly. They fear they'll be broke.
Yes.
They fear they'll struggle.
Yeah. But then you hear as a testimony as well of someone who you started off your life, even with marriage, to Carol with very limited resources. But at the same time, you got to experience God's amazing provision.
Yeah, me, I'm those parents, by the way, who pray for their kids to be in ministry. Yeah? So if you're looking for volunteers, I'll send them to K Crew. You know,
my kids do not know this, and I'm sure they're not going to watch this podcast. Maybe much later.
Mine know. I mean, I pray for them to be in ministry. I desire that because I feel like it's the best thing you can do with your life is to serve Jesus.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've never. You know, David says, I was young. Now I'm old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken. And it's the truth. I feel like it's like swimming. Yeah. You know, swimming, when you're learning to swim, it's so counterintuitive because you feel like you'll drown. Yeah. If I let go of control, I'll drown. But the only day you'll ever become a good swimmer is when you let go of control and let the water carry you. Yeah. If you don't learn to do that, you will struggle all your life. Through. And I think that's how many Christians live. They live that life of you're paddling so hard because you don't trust the water. Yeah. But the minute you begin to understand this thing we see in the Bible, it's real. It's real. Yeah. You know, Abraham was an extremely wealthy man. That guy never did a business deal in his whole life. Like, there's no business deal. The guy got rich because he lied that someone was his wife. He was his sister.
We're not asking you guys to lie.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, because of the way he was following God, God blessed him despite his foolishness. You know? And I can say for me, Moz, I've seen my life blessed. Yeah. Even in terms of financial prosperity, the things that people chase, I've seen them in my life. Yeah. But they don't define me. Neither do I chase them. Yeah. And I've seen that God blesses me with things for the sake of his work. Yeah. So right now I live in a really nice house. It's a big house. But I love it because it allows me I disciple people there. That house is always full. In fact, I have to apologize to my neighbors because our parking lot is always, they come from work and they just find 10 cars in the parking lot. Like every week there are people there. But I need it in this season of my life. Yeah. You know, and it's almost those things where you begin to understand, first of all, we have such a limited perspective of who we are. Because we're not of this world. Yeah. In heaven, the streets are paved with gold. Yeah. The stuff people are slaving and laboring to fill their pockets with is tarmac in heaven. Like, why would I want to spend my life chasing things that don't last? You know? Yeah. But then also the beautiful thing is when I chase God's things, he gives me the tarmac I need. He gives me the things I need, the resources I need to do his work. Yeah. And I think for me, I've tested and I've tried it and I've seen it. You can't outgive God. No. You can't outgive God. No. Yeah. Yeah.
And so for guys who are probably, I do want to pose a challenge to, you know, some of the guys who are listening or watching this and say, you could be maybe prospering or succeeding in the career that you've decided to pursue, but it's not giving you the satisfaction or the contentment that you need, because maybe you're like Pastor M, who you're following a career path, but God has called you to something else. To surrender your life and allow Him to, to use you. Because I think one of the beauty about this conversation is, just become a pharmacist, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad we have
a rich pharmacist.
Yeah. But I'm so glad that we have someone with, with a sharp brain, and you're using the skills and the gifts that God has given you to be able to serve His body. And look at what has happened.
And I've pastored many rich pharmacists.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'd have been just a rich pharmacist, but God made me a leader of rich pharmacists.
Yeah.
A shepherd of a rich pharmacist.
Yes.
And I mean, Moz, I've spoken in forums where I'm thinking, what am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken to governors and senators in the US and in different countries. I've spoken in every continent in the world. I've written books that have been read in every continent of this world.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I'm not saying this in any way to big myself up. I'm just trying to say, I never chased any of these things.
Yeah.
I simply just follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And I feel like God has such a big plan. God's plan for you. This is what I tell people. God's plan for you is always bigger than your plan for yourself.
Yeah.
So the longer you hold on to your plan for yourself, the longer you hold away from God's plan for you, which is way bigger.
Oh man.
Yeah. And so for me, I've seen God's plan for me, and I'm like, man, even now I know I haven't even tasted the beginning of God's plan for me.
Yeah.
I still have like God has said, I'll give you nations. So me, I'm praying for nations.
Yes.
Yes. And I know I'm going to have nations. I'm going to have sons and daughters in many nations. Like the life God created me for is so huge that I can't even imagine. No eye has seen, no ear has heard the things that God has prepared for those who love Him. But the problem is, when you live like this, you'll never experience it yourself.
Yeah.
So just begin to believe God. The things that we're chasing, none of them it pales in comparison with the things God has for us.
Absolutely. You've been married for 30 years.
31.
31 years. And I love how you shared, that God told you that you need to marry Carol.
I'm so glad. I was not smart enough. Like, I liked her, but I didn't understand how much I needed her. Yeah. So I'm so glad I obeyed every day.
And one of the things that you guys have been able to do is to put together an amazing curriculum that many guys have done on premarital counseling called Ndoa.
Yeah.
And this, you just shared with me. I didn't even know that you had written this book last year, about 30.
Yeah, it's called Better Together.
Yes.
And it's so we had been married 30 years, and so we thought, what can we do to just give thanks?
Yeah.
So we thought, what if we could write 30 of the most important lessons we've learned in those years?
Yes.
And then create a couple's devotional that a couple can read together.
Yeah.
And hopefully spare people from some of the pain, because it's not a preachy book. It's a book that starts with, here's how we messed up.
Yeah.
And then here's what we learned.
That's so good.
So we did that, and so it's called Better Together. Yeah.
I shared with you about how I think I have had conversations with with quite a number of people. You have a conversation with, like, tuliachana, especially with people who have gone through a rough patch in marriage.
Yeah.
What are some of those key lessons that you've picked up?
Oh, that's a really good. Well, I'd have to give you the book.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some really important things we learned about just what that every marriage has stages, and you need to understand the season of marriage you're in.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about seasons.
Yes.
Every marriage has seasons, and the problem is, if you don't understand it, you go through a season and you think your marriage is over, but actually you are going through a season, and later on you might discover one day that every marriage goes through that season.
Yes.
But because you didn't know, you threw it away and maybe went and looked for another one, not understanding in the new one, I will also go through the same season.
They know you have in that class.
So rather than breaking this one to go find another one and then repeat, it's almost like going to repeat Snad one again.
Yeah.
Like, make it work in this one. So I think there were just different things we learned. But the biggest thing my biggest passion in life now, which is very connected with that, is I've come to understand Jesus has a genius method called discipleship that I don't think the church in this part of the world has even begun to grapple with. And discipleship, Jesus says, go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them. We all know the Great Commission, but do we practice it? Practicing discipleship, when you look at Paul, he says, the things you've heard me say in the presence of others, and trust to reliable witnesses, in a few witnesses, and trust to reliable other people who'll be able to even teach it to others. And Paul is talking about 4 generations: himself, Timothy, the ones he's entrusting to, and then the ones they will teach. And discipleship is actually the core business of human beings on earth. It is for me to reproduce the life of Jesus that Jesus has put in me in someone else. The reason why we have so many marriages struggling in the church today is because we don't believe in discipleship. We believe in classes. So we've written good classes. We've written, Ndoa is a phenomenal curriculum. It's one of the best out there. Actually, if you go to it's very interesting. I was being told that at the registrar of marriage, if you go and you're not, they ask you whether you've done any marriage preparation, that there are actually people there who tell you, if you haven't done, do Ndoa.
Wow.
So I know one of our pastors who runs a Ndoa program, and he gets referrals from the government because they're like, we know a good curriculum that we've read. So it's a phenomenal curriculum. But then I came to understand curriculum does not disciple people.
No.
People disciple people. And so Kara and I, we've had the privilege of writing many curriculums. We wrote Mizizi. It's a discipleship curriculum that's been used across the world, literally across the world. But then we began to realize, unfortunately, the church, including us then, relies on curriculum to disciple people. That's not discipleship. Discipleship is my life being passed on to you, which means I have to be vulnerable with you. I have to open up my house. You have to know how I live. You have to see how I relate to my wife. You have to see how I act when I'm tired, how I am when I'm disappointed, because it's life on life. It's not instant 10 weeks experience and now you're discipled, which is what we like, the quick mix. And when you begin to realize that, you realize this is why couples are breaking up in the church at almost similar rates to in the world. Because in churches, we don't have the patience to actually walk with people for the long term. We want to cook them in a class and quickly jump into the next class. And so that's been my biggest discovery. How are we going to... My prayer is for a 100% divorce-proof church. That's my prayer for Mavuno. That we're actually going to get to a place where we're going to be 100% divorce-proof. Is it possible? I believe it is, if we're serious about discipleship. Because discipleship means if you're in a small group in our church and you're going through a marriage issue, it's our marriage issue. It's like as a small group leader, that's my issue. I have to walk with you. I have to model from my own marriage how I solve my problems. So we begin to share life together. And I feel like this is something that Jesus did with his disciples. He modeled it so well for us. 80% of his teaching was to 12 people. And the other 10%, the other 20% is what was to the crowds, the sermons we see. But we tend to do it the other way around. We want to spend a lot of time with the crowds, but these guys, walking with them, just discipling them. We don't even disciple our own children as Christians. We kind of send them to Sunday school. So I think that's been a discovery for me. And I'm not saying this in any criticism for anybody. That was my journey as well. And I think that God really began to challenge me about maybe about 10 years ago, maybe even longer, and began to put a holy discontent in my life when I began to look at couples that were taken through our curriculum and then were divorcing. And you're asking, what's missing? What is it that they didn't understand? No, it's not about understanding. Discipleship is spiritual parenting. Just the same way that you can't take a baby and throw them out in the world. You have to teach them how to eat, how to walk, how to talk. You have to do that.
It's a process,
As a Christian, and you're born again. And you can't be born again and then now I tell you, cheers. Now you figure it out for yourself. You have to watch me. So for us, for Kara and I, our disciples are our core pastors. And we realize we have to model our marriage in front of them. They have to see how I deal with my wife when I'm disappointed. They have to see how, and we have to be real with them. We have to show them how we bring up our kids. and they have to live life. They have to see our finances. So we're pretty transparent with our disciples. This is how we deal with our finances. This is how we invest. This is the mistakes we've made. And what we found is when we do that, I don't know, Jesus has such a powerful way of building his church. So we mistake these two statements. Make disciples. That's a command. You make disciples. And then he says, who will build the church? He says, I will build my church. But what do we normally do as Christians? We build the church and then we hope Jesus makes disciples, you know? So I figured when I started doing my job, let me make disciples. What I've seen is Jesus actually builds his church. So that's become my big thing nowadays is how do I become a good disciple? How do I become a good discipler? How do I teach my disciples to disciple others? So there'll be generations of people who follow me as I follow Christ and who are also being followed as they're following Christ, etc., etc.
So the key, I remember one time being in a staff meeting at Nairobi Chapel, and one of these, I think there was a pastor who would come to speak to the staff at that time, and he said, integrity without honesty is, let me use Swahili, makaratasi matope ngeli ya ma. You're wasting people's time. And I think that's what you are challenging us to, because you have decided to be vulnerable or to be open, even as you disciple your staff, and you open up yourself towards marriage, and you're like, okay, let's show you how us guys do marriage, so that they can be able to learn from you. They learn from your mistakes and be able to know how to be able to avoid these things.
Exactly. And they follow us as we're following Christ. So they're not following us blindly. Because they can see us following Christ. And what they're learning is how we are following Christ. And then they're following that as well. And then they're doing that with the people they're discipling. And those people are doing it with the people they're discipling. And so what basically happens, let me say, like for this generation today, we're a completely, let me not say we, because I'm even an older generation. There's a completely unparented generation today. People who both parents were working or were not home, or they grew up without parents in the house. And they don't even know how to be married. So you get married, you've never seen a husband operate. How are you ever going to find out if you don't actually get spiritually parented in that? So you find that you're not a bad guy. You just don't know. You know? So somehow as Christians, we now have to start understanding, let's focus on that group that God has given us. Let's walk with those few disciples. Let's share our lives with them. If all of us do that, Moz, that's the end of corruption.
That's for sure.
I believe that corruption in this country will not end because of laws.
No.
It's not laws.
It's a matter of the heart.
It's a heart. You know, I've lived in countries that were seemingly a lot better than us. I always laugh and tell guys, when I lived in California, I mean, it was the cleanest place I'd ever lived. And I used to wonder, hey, these guys are so clean there. Why can't we be like this? But you know what the fine was for littering, throwing trash on the ground? $1,000.
Oh, man.
You guys, that's like...
that's 130
That's 130 G's. And they're not playing with you. So, of course, you're going to be clean. Now, there's a time I passed a place where, under a bridge, where there were no cameras. Because that place also, there are cameras everywhere. You guys, it was like a Nairobi, a Grogon, a bridge. Guys were just throwing their trash under. So I realized these guys are not more spiritual than us. They just have a law that works. That's what the law does. In the scripture, that's what the law does. The law polices us. It doesn't transform us. So even if we have a country where there are good laws, like we all hope for, it won't change our hearts. We'll still be corrupt on the inside. And corruption is on the inside. Look at what's happening in that same country today. Like as civilized as they are, you look at them and you're like, how did you guys get here? But it's because the heart is where transformation needs to happen. Now, only discipleship can reach the heart of people. So if you want to see honest politicians, hey, let's grab those two young high schoolers who are interested in leadership. Let's start working with them now. And in another 3-4 years, you'll see a difference in how they think.
I agree to that 100%. And as I was thinking about that statement for vulnerability, or it's because as we huddle together in small communities, which I think is pretty much church, as we gather together, the few of us where we know one another and we're doing life together. The more people know, the more we are open for people to know about our lives and what's going on, the easier it is for them to be able to hold us accountable.
Exactly.
From an individual capacity, but then also from a couple's capacity. And I want to push this even further and say it even goes beyond marriage. It goes to doing life as well.
Absolutely.
Where we're so intentional with doing life with one another. That if we desire to see true change as you're challenging us, then that true change can only come by dealing with the heart issues.
Exactly.
We allow the software to be changed.
Exactly. It's software. It's a software problem that Kenya has. And the world has generally.
Yes. I've got to ask you this because many of us now have come to know you through Mavuno. And I remember when I was still in chapel at the time, and I had traveled, and when I came, I think it was the month of August of 2005. It was that year, yeah?
Are you talking about which?
When you guys were all in chapel, and then Pastor Oscar decided
2005.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was like, in my head, I was wondering, what's Pastor Oscar doing? I mean, which pastor would ever?
It was a crazy thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, he just had this hunger to see the gospel spread.
Yeah.
And maybe he just had this thing of it's not happening fast enough. I don't know. I've never asked him what his motive was. But I think as he prayed, he just got this sense of, let me take this beautiful church, because the chapel had grown now from the 20 people I was telling you about. That time it was maybe 3,000. And it was it was a happening church.
Yeah.
And so he's like, this church, this location is small. We're landlocked. We can't grow anymore.
Yeah.
So we went through a journey where we bought land. We bought the land right now where the Jamhuri, the main chapel is right now. And it was a huge challenge for the church.
Yeah.
I remember it was 40 million shillings was the most, those days.
That was a lot of money.
Serious cash.
Yeah.
So we finished paying for it. And then the governments changed. And the Kibaki government came. First thing those guys did, they froze because there'd been so much corruption in the last government.
Yeah.
They froze all land transactions. And especially if you are near a forest, public utility, whatever. And this was near the showground.
Yes.
So immediately we were frozen from touching, approaching, doing anything on our land.
Yeah.
So it was very frustrating because now everybody's like, but we prayed.
Yeah.
But did God say?
Yes.
We sweated, we raised this money. It was so hard. Why would God allow this to happen and then we lose it? But God never loses, and He never wastes experiences.
Yeah.
So what happened is, as they were praying, it was a 2-year gap without being able to access the land.
Yeah.
And within that 2 years is when now Bishop was praying, and he was like, God, tell me what this is about. And that's when he came back to us and says, I sense what God is saying is, rather than just taking this church, because the idea then had been, maybe we leave a small church in Mamlaka and then go to move people to Jamhuri.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't think that's what God is saying. I think God is saying we divide the church into 5 and take each of those main highways leading into town. You guys go plant a church there. So of course it was like, what? I mean, it's like, who has ever done that?
Yeah.
So he actually led us in that process.
Yeah.
And he was able to raise leaders for each of the churches. That's how I became the leader of what was then known as the Mombasa Road Church Plant. Because every road, so us guys were sent to Mombasa Road, some other guys were sent to Thika Road. It was like...
I think Goi was sent to Mashariki.
That was Jogoo Road, yeah. So it was like, send guys to these major roads.
Yeah.
So that's how we now became we were called Mombasa Road Church Plant. And then now what we did is, because it was very packed, we had 5 services every Sunday. So each of us picked one service. And then Bishop announced and said, this guy is going here. So if you like, and you live in that area, or you like his ministry, move to that service.
Wow.
So the church kind of just separated out in services. And so I was left with my favorite service, which was the 12 o'clock service. I like the 12 o'clock service because we used to call it the hangover service.
Yes.
That's when guys who have been out raving the night before, and then they kind of they come to church.
Yeah. So
I liked it because it had a lot of non-Christians in it. And again, like I told you from my story, I'd really been drawn to reaching people who didn't like church.
Yeah. So
that became my service. And a year of doing that. And then on one Sunday, I think it was July 7th of 2005.
Yeah.
We just had a celebration service, and then we all
dispersed,
went and sorted ourselves out in other parts of the town.
Yeah.
5 churches planted in one day.
Did you decide to call the church Mavuno immediately you moved?
No. That's a funny story. We really didn't know what we were called Mombasa Road Church Plant for a while.
Yeah.
But of course you can't call your church Mombasa Road Church Plant. It doesn't sound like a serious name. So we had a retreat. There were about 6 of us who were in the leadership.
Yeah.
So I called my guys. We went to Lukenya Getaway. We had a retreat for like a couple of nights. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I told guys, we're not leaving here without a name for this church.
Yeah.
So we wrote a list of my names, many of the names. And the guys now in that team were, if you know, Pastor Simon, Levi, Pastor Kanji, Kanji Bogwa, Linda, Pastor Linda. Those are a group of us. Huh? Mm-hmm. And so we're in the room. We've listed the names. And we have a column of many cool names. Huh?
Yeah.
And then we just go around eliminating. It took us a whole afternoon. And finally, we're left with 2 names. Mm-hmm. And the first name was Mavuno, which a few of the people liked. And then the name I really liked was Refuge. Oh, wow. Now this comes out publicly. Yeah. So we would have been called Refuge Church.
Or City of Refuge.
And I was pushing for it. So we decided, okay. So I remember I was at the front and we were deadlocked. Yeah. Half guys like Mavuno, half guys like Refuge. So I remember just I was standing and I said, okay, guys, we can either be Refuge. We have to make a decision. It's either Refuge or Mavuno. Now, outside the room, there had been a donkey. Yeah. It had been there the whole time we were there. Very quiet, just cooling grass, very content. The minute I touched Mavuno, that thing just let out a shout. I'd never had a donkey doing that, but it was even scary. I was like, what is that? And there was nothing happening. It was just screaming. So we looked at each other, we checked out. Then we were like, Sawa, Mavuno.
Mavuno, the donkey has confirmed.
So our name was confirmed by a donkey. That's a story for like, yeah.
You could use it for a Balaam story.
It was a Balaam story. The donkey spoke. Guys were not hearing God, so God had to use a donkey. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that's the story of how we became Mavuno Church.
Yeah. And earlier on, we're talking about how, you were coming up with very creative ways in terms of being culturally relevant, with the church. And when Mavuno started, you guys were like the talk of the city. Like you were very intentional to seek out your target audience.
Yeah, because remember I told you we even sat down with guys and just asked questions. Like, why don't you like church?
Did you have to do it again when you were starting Mavuno?
Yeah. We talked to guys, and for me, in fact, one of the things I always asked is, why is it that when guys come into church, they become so chilled and so unreal? You go to watch a rugby game. Yeah. Guys are nuts. When their team scores, they are screaming, or a football game. They're screaming, they're running around. I'm like, why aren't these guys doing that in church?
In church, yeah.
Then you go to a rave. You find guys dancing on a table, they're jumping, looking so stupid. Yeah. You're like, why is it that you are this? This is the real you. Yeah. But in church, you've worn a kasuit, you look like a very... Like, what's wrong?
You're not the same person.
You're not the same person. Yeah. And the real you is that guy we see watching foot up, supporting your football team. Huh? Yeah. So I guess I kept asking questions. Why aren't you guys being real? What's happening? And then I began to ask, where are these people real? So I said, okay, what would happen if I reach them using forms they're familiar with? Yeah. So what if church could actually become engaging? Yeah. Because when these guys go to a concert, they listen to good music. So what if we could have good music in the church? You guys, that was such a radical thing. Those days, nowadays churches have good music. Those days, I remember the guy who left church and told me that your music is distracting. So I was like, what do you mean it's distracting? He's like, it's too good. I stopped worshiping. I'm listening to the music. I'm like, dude, I've never even thought that someone can leave church because music was too good.
Just listen to a lot of keyboard stuff being played badly.
Exactly. Don't listen to the voice. Just listen to the words. That's kind of what we're used to. Huh? Wow. So I feel like that became such a culture shifting thing. Yeah. And I really thank God. God brought me the right team. Yes. Because everybody who came on the team had a place they were playing. And Kanji's role, Kanji Mbugwa, he was our first worship pastor. He even came so interestingly because I didn't expect... I discipled Kanji when I was in the States. Yeah. He was one of the young Kenyans that I discipled. But he came back to do music. Yeah. And he was just a producer, and an artist. So I didn't see him as a worship leader. Yeah. But we were close. And then one day I come out from getting a haircut at Kenyatta Market and I just feel like the Holy Spirit says, go to Kanji's place. So I go. That time he's with Aaron Rimbui. Yeah. They're doing a recording session. They finish. And I'm still waiting for why am I here? Then God isn't saying anything. So I'm like, okay, guys, it's nice to see you. Cheers. So I walk out. Then Kanji follows me. Yeah. And at the door, as he's just saying goodbye, God says, ask him.
Wow.
Because I'd just been asking, because there's a couple of worship leaders I'd really felt if I get this worship leader, I'll have such good worship in our church.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Kanji and God says, ask him. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like in my mind, that's not a worship leader. This guy is an entertainer, you know.
Yes.
So I said, Kanji, I think God is asking me to ask you to be my worship pastor. And Kanji, he just pulls a paper from his pocket and he's like, I thought you'd never ask. Here's a list. Here's the band. I've been thinking about.
yeah.
So I think Kanji had been praying about this thing, but he was like, I'm not going to ask him.
Yeah.
You know. So that's how we connected. And for him, because he was an entertainer, he had a very strong instinct for what's the music in the culture.
Yeah.
So Kanji's thought, and I completely concur with it, is Christian music should be the music of the heart.
Yeah.
So we don't import Hillsong and make people like Hillsong and then make that Christian music. If guys don't listen to Hillsong on radio, if the top secular artists don't play Hillsong style music, which is soft, what is it called? Contemporary Christian.
Yeah.
So why are we kind of contorting that into our culture? Yeah. God created all genres.
Yes.
You know, he's the God of all the nations. Yeah. The earth is his, everything belongs to him. So his thinking is, if people are moved by this, then that's where the music should be.
Yeah.
And you know, it was so interesting because if you've ever gone to even just go to a church where guys are doing, even for you, you know, there's probably times you're doing nice Christian music, guys are lifting their hands, Jaira, you're enough. Yeah. And then you do aka, pambio that is like inside. You know those Swahili
indigenous nice
indigenous song. Yeah. Somehow guys just wake up. It's like they remove those clothes, foreign clothes, and they become themselves.
They become alive.
They become alive.
Yeah.
And that's what we realize, that when you play music of the heart, people come alive.
Wow.
And when they come alive, God can relate with the real person. Because as long as you're fake in church, there'll be no transformation.
Yeah.
But when you become real, there'll be transformation.
Yeah.
So I think for us, it was that discovery that you could actually use even genres that people considered secular then.
Yeah.
Which today, I don't think people have that problem in church, but then it was a huge issue.
It was a big deal.
We even use secular music.
You remixed a couple of them.
Not a couple. We remixed a lot of songs and got into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But I remember just one day coming to, like, one of my relatives was a Rastafarian. He came to church. And that day, I didn't even know, but Kina Kanji had, by the way, he had not been in church for long. And that day, I think Kina Kanji did a remix of Redemption song. Like, I don't know, I just saw the guy, he had been standing stiffly. I just saw like a guy, you just see his rastas, just like go up. But you know, they've put Jesus' words in that.
Yeah.
Huh? And I realized there was an openness to the spirit that the guy received at that point. So it had two things that it did. Number one, it caused the non-Christian to feel they're speaking my language.
Yeah.
Like the Pentecost miracle. It's like, how is it that we're hearing these guys who are not like us speaking our language?
Actually, it is. I never looked at it. It's a miracle of Pentecost
for the non-believer. For the believer, it has a different thing it does. It inoculates them from the culture.
Yeah.
So I remember being in a club. We were on holiday with my wife in a hotel in the coast. And a song comes up.
Yeah.
It's a very secular song. Huh?
Yeah.
And as the guys are singing, she's like, even these guys play Mavuno songs. Because in her Christianness, what's in her mind is Christian words. She's not listening. She can't hear the words because she knows the real words of the song.
Yeah.
So what I've done to that Christian in the matatu who is being forced to listen to classic FM is I've put words to a song. So when they hear that song, they're worshiping Jesus. It's not defiling them.
Yeah.
So there's two things that we realize were happening there. So that was part of our culture mandate, because we realize that Christians, we have a culture mandate.
Yeah.
We're not refugees from the world. We're here to transform the world. Yes. Salt and light. Salt doesn't stay in the shaker. Salt is supposed to impact. As long as we stay in our space, speaking our language, doing our thing, then salt is supposed to actually be dispersed in the food.
Yes. Yes.
You know? And you never eat a food and you say, wow, what amazing salt. The salt is supposed to do its work in such a way that the food is changed.
Yes.
But when there's no salt and you eat that food, you can't stand it.
Yeah.
But you'll always think it's a food.
Yeah.
Not understanding it's the salt doing its work.
Yeah.
That's how we're meant to be. We're the salt and the light.
And you used to have also very cool thematic messages. Like, I have to remind you this one. There's one time you were called on classic. by Minor, and Minor never used to interview guys.
No, but
you remember?
Yeah. No, but we did almost a year with those classic guys.
Yeah. Because of the Mavuno had become so culturally relevant. And I remember, I think the sermon series at that time was Different Strokes.
Yeah, I remember that. We got into a lot of
Different
trouble for
strokes
that
for
one.
different
So we got
folks.
into a lot of trouble doing some of those things. No?
Yeah.
But part of it is because, and sometimes people thought we were trying to be a cool church.
But you were not.
But Moz, I've never seen myself as a cool pastor or a cool church.
Even though
it was always hunger.
Yeah.
Hunger to reach what's going to reach these kids. How are we going to speak a language they understand?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes that would get us in trouble with Christians because they felt maybe we're diluting the gospel or we're trying to be too cool. But I think what helped me is, as I read church history, I actually realized there are people in church history who did those things.
Yeah.
You know, people like Martin Luther, the great church reformer. When they wrote these hymns that we consider, you know, sometimes people feel if you haven't sung a hymn, you've not worshipped.
Yeah.
But actually, those hymns were bar tunes. Those guys would take the pop songs of the day and then they would put Christian words to them. And now you sing those songs and you're like, this is the most sanctified song. Actually, it was a secular song that was sanctified.
Yeah.
And so just because I understood church history and I'd seen other churches doing this in the West, then I think it's what gave me the courage. And then also I had the blessing, I felt like I had the blessing of Pastor Oscar then, who allowed us to experiment.
Yeah.
So even with the criticism and the misunderstanding, I think we were willing to just keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But you know, it's not cultural relevance for cultural relevance sake.
Yeah.
It's being all things to all men, that in some way we may reach some for Jesus. And I feel like that has remained our ethos.
Yeah.
I feel like we've shifted a few things.
I was going to ask you if you still feel that you are as intentional now as you were then, because now Mavuno has grown a lot beyond just this country. Now you are in how many countries?
So we're in 10 countries. We're about 50 plus churches.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
10 countries, 50 plus churches.
Yeah.
So as you have grown this much, do you think now you are as intentional as you are, or do you find now that as the church has grown that you almost become like you go back to the default settings?
You just become a comfortable church.
Yeah.
Huh? That's always a temptation, by the way. Huh? It's always a temptation to settle.
Yeah.
Those days we're so like people even preach sermons against us. Huh?
Yes.
Then you get to a place where now you're an accepted, almost mainstream brand. You know, people actually see you as a respectable church, which was very weird for us to be seen as acceptable. Huh? But I think for me, I've always had that thought of, we must always be on the edge.
Yeah.
We must always be reaching people. I've always said there's nothing wrong with a church that reaches believers and disciples believers. It's a beautiful thing and it must be there.
Yeah.
But there always have to be, Paul always said there was an apostle to the Gentiles. And I always felt that was a calling for us and for me, is to reach people who don't like church.
Yeah.
Have we always been as effective? I don't think so. But I also feel like the seasons we've gone through that God has clarified and helped us even begin to understand our calling better.
Yeah.
So I feel like now we still have some significant cultural relevance, but it's what's shifted. The biggest thing that shifted is the sense that we don't want it to just be an institutional cultural relevance.
Yeah. We
want it to be organic. Everybody in the church has a heart for the non-believer.
Yeah.
Everybody in the church has a heart to disciple the people around them. And that's always been, it has always been the thought, but I feel like now we're beginning to actually understand how to do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like our best years are ahead of us.
And as a leader, you know, as you have grown from the place of having one church that you were leading to now having, 50 plus branches all around in 10 countries, how have you been changed? And what's that thing that you also do feel God is calling you and being like, okay, Pastor M, this is what I'd like you to head towards?
Yeah. Great question. So So I wrote a book called Seasons. I'm sorry if I keep saying I wrote a book.
No, it's fine. That's so good because we need to look for these
I wrote
books.
a book called Seasons. And it talks about the seasons of a leader's life. And it's something I was taught by one of my disciples, a mentor of mine, who taught me about life has seasons. And what you did in your 20s should be a platform for what you do in your 30s. What you do in your 30s should be a platform for what you do in your 40s. So you don't reinvent yourself and start again every decade. So that really was a word of, you know how you hear a word from somebody and becomes, that's God's word for me. So I've always patterned my life with that, that there are seasons. That's why I even wrote that book, because I was like, I think it was such a clarifying book. There are things you did, you know, when you're a young DJ that you don't do today. But hopefully it was not a waste. Right now, you probably are discipling young DJs. And so it's a platform, you know? There are people who do something for 10 years, then they scrap that and go and start all over again doing something. And then you find that you never really become good at whatever you're called to. So for me, I feel like in this season, what God is calling me to is, in my 20s, my biggest job was to be discipled, to be mentored. I tell people in their 20s, you want to start off and start your own thing and become rich. That was me. But the best thing you can do is find older mentors, Christ-focused people ahead of you who are successful in what they're doing, and let them, you serve them. You'd rather even serve as an intern in their ministry, serve as a disciple under them. Let them disciple you. Because that shapes your thinking. It builds your networks. You know, it helps you start. When I was in my 20s, because of being around Bishop and being around his peers, because then at Chapel, there were many people who were his age. They became my mentors. And Kara and I, we found ourselves thinking like people 10 years older than us. And so the decisions we made were much more mature than if we had walked the journey alone, you know? And then in our 30s, that was the season now when we planted Mavuno. And I feel like in your 30s, you if you've been mentored, then you've shaped your contribution. Your mind already knows this is what I want to do with my life. This is how I want to invest my life. And so in our 30s, we knew we're going to plant a church for people who don't like church. We didn't know how it would go, but we was like, we need to plant this thing. And this is the thing that God has put in us. So we planted it and we grew it in our 30s. In our 40s, then the biggest thing that we did was to start multiplying that contribution. What we learned is it's scalable. Because remember, the call is be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. That's actually the first commission. God's original intention for humanity. So being fruitful is figuring out what your contribution is. Then you multiply it, which is what we did in our 40s until recently. Which is then figuring out, how do we take this idea? How do you go to a Mavuno I don't know if you've ever had a chance of going to a Mavuno in another country. Have you gone to, you haven't, huh?
Not yet.
So if you go to Mavuno in Bujumbura, it's a Mavuno. It's the weirdest thing. I'm not there. There's a pastor there who's from there. He's from that country. They speak their language. They crack jokes in their language, which is very different from Kenyan culture. But you guys, they are a Mavuno church.
Wow.
They have the same passions we have. They are passionate about reaching unbelievers. They're passionate about reaching young people. I go there and I feel like it's creepy. It's like you're seeing a twin, but who's just in a different culture. When I go to Mavuno Kampala, it's exactly the same. And I feel like that for me has been what the last 10 years, moving into my mid-50s, the task of my 40s was. I feel like the next season is the season now of, how do I resource this thing? Because I feel like it's growing. We have some phenomenal leaders. And so in the next 10 years, my job is to actually resource it. And the beautiful thing is God has built credibility in those years. So now I'm a person who I've got networks. People know me, people trust me. So I can actually do what, if I stay in that church, clearing it, now I have to stand in that pulpit and be the one who preaches. Who's going to be the one resourcing it?
That's true.
You see. So this is why when you don't know what your next 10 years looks like, then you kill the ministry, because then you hold on to a job and you can't let go. There are people who can't let go of that business. They can't let go of that church because it's like, I don't know what the next thing is. But for me, my biggest job, in fact, I'm actually at the place now where this year begins the next season of my life. And for me, I've actually told guys, so after the first season, I let go of Mavuno, the church I was leading. So the last 10 years, I haven't led a church because I've been multiplying churches. Now we have networks of churches. And so my next 10 years is to now resource these networks so that they have land, they have pastors training, they have all the resources they need. And now I can do that uniquely in a way that none of their leaders can. But I can't do that if I'm still doing what I've been doing the last 10 years. So I've been telling guys like Jesus, I need to go build a house for you guys. Where I'm going, you can't come. I'm leaving, you know. And of course, it's scary for your leaders when you tell them that. But also what it does, it helps them step up. So they're already now step up because I'm not going to be coming back to do what I've been doing.
I love that. It's a process of growth as well. Now, my last question for you is Generosity, which is your latest book.
Yep.
I know Kenya's
Kingdom Generosity.
Kingdom Generosity. Kenyans have been known to be a very generous country. I think probably one of the top 10. But I think our generosity is that, that you take care of your people, which is really good. And I think that's something to be able to commend people about. But you've written it from a kingdom perspective.
Absolutely.
What would be your challenge for us, and what's your thinking behind it?
So first thing I learned about generosity stems out of surrender. The minute I surrender, then I realize everything that God puts in my hands is a kingdom resource. You know? And you're right, Kenyans are generous. We're generous with time, we're generous with relationships. People come into this culture from other cultures and they say, you're such a warm people. Wow. You're such a generous people. Huh? But I feel like you're right. Kingdom generosity is another scale. It's another level of generosity because God is asking us now to live lives that are yielded to the kingdom. For the longest, I think we Africans received a gospel that disenabled us. The missionaries came, they taught us about Jesus, yes, but they didn't teach us we were responsible. They didn't teach us that we were the missionaries. They taught us that, so for the longest, if you say, I have a missionary friend, guys would be like, oh, a white friend. You know? I remember the first time there's a place that used to have missionary discounts. And I went and I said, I'm a missionary because I was a pastor. And they're like, dude, are you working for some missionaries? Because they're like, we've never seen a black missionary. Because we were not taught. So we were not taught that we are supposed to be the ones who give. Because always there was this, there are some people coming to rescue us from the outside. Unfortunately, that became our cultural ethos. That's why Naomba Serikali is such a big phrase in Kenya, because it's almost like somebody from the outside who will come and save us. It's somebody else's job to fix this problem. And we have that ethos. And I feel like God in Kingdom Generosity, he tells us, what do you have in your hands? Are you willing to yield what you have in your hands? Because it's enough for me to fix the problems of your culture. The boy had 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and those 5 loaves and 2 fishes fed the 5,000. As Africans, we have our 5 loaves and 2 fishes, but we look down on it. That's why we have the UN here. That's why we have the World Bank. None of those is here for our good. They're not. They actually create a lot more wealth for the people who send them than they do for us. But unfortunately, we've never got it. We've never understood it. With all our PhDs and all our economists, we still welcome them with open hands because they enable bad practice, which is that we can hold on and wait for someone to come and help us. And I feel like what godly kingdom generosity is about saying, what has God put in my hands? I have enough to solve the problems of my church. I have enough to solve the problems of the community around me. And as soon as we begin to think that way, we realize, man, we can solve problems. I mean, one of my mentors, he's a huge influence in my life. He's called Bishop Titus Masika. And Bishop Masika, he's a Kenyan hero. He's actually one of those people should read about in history books in this country. He's actually got a famous daughter, Masi Masika. But he's not as known, but actually he's an impactor. And he basically went to his shags, his upcountry home, where it was one of the poorest shags, poorest countries in this country. People used to die every other year when there was a drought. Like literally die. Unless the government came and helped them. And he just felt compelled to leave his comfortable life in Nairobi, relocate back to shags, and start to teach people God's kingdom way of handling money. Moz, in 10 years of his being there, that village was full of millionaires.
Wow.
Now, I don't say millionaires like, Kenyans can say millionaires, like Akonado. No, I'm actually talking about real millionaires with millions in the bank. And these are not people who've gone to high school. Many of them were people who finished education in primary school. Some just they're not college people. But that place, just by teaching them to think a kingdom way about money, it completely changed how they think.
I'm trying to remember the name of the...
our money problem is in the head.
Yeah.
It's our thinking. It's not in our pockets. Yeah, as Africans.
Yeah.
So Yatta is one of the wealthiest places.
That's it, Yatta.
Yeah, Yatta is one of the wealthiest places. Now he's moved to Pokot. He's doing it in Pokot now. He picks the poorest places. Wow. And I feel like what he wants to do is demonstrate that the gospel works. He's become a consult. People consult from the World Bank. People consult from the Melinda Gates Foundation. I mean, they like big shots, World Vision, because all these, even the secular organizations, are seeing you have a solution.
Yeah.
Now his thing is, he'll always tell you it is a biblically empowered worldview. So even if you're a Muslim, it is a biblically. If I remove the Bible, there's no worldview.
Wow.
And he's gained respect for his faith because it works.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like for us as Christians, we've neglected the manual, and we're trying to do money the way the world does money. And what we've not understood is, if the way the world does money actually enslaves, it doesn't create freedom. Yeah, you read the Bible, money done the world's way enslaves. Yeah, the best story is Joseph in Egypt. Joseph goes to Egypt, and he's put in charge of Pharaoh's palace. Now, what we've never understood is Joseph used the world's wisdom to build wealth for the Pharaoh. Yeah. So he did the 20%. Everybody paid taxes, and then he sold their food to them with the interest. Yeah. And basically, what happens? He impoverished the Egyptians. Yes. And by the time he was done, they didn't even have their own things. They sold their own bodies to the Pharaoh. Yes. We love Joseph. He was a godly man, but the principle he used was a worldly principle. Now, what we don't understand is our worldly economics, the economics of this country, the economics of the world, is actually enslaving. Yeah. It teaches us debt, that borrowing, you can borrow your way into wealth. Yeah. It teaches us hoarding. It teaches us, I mean, the principles that are seen as really good principles are actually very unbiblical. The Bible has very opposite principles. Yeah. But here's the thing about wealth. You can get wealth the world's way, but the world's way always leads to wealth with sorrow. Yeah. That's what people don't understand. You can look very good in social media because you have money and you have cars in your garage, but it is wealth with sorrow. And people don't understand the depth of sorrow you can have. When you're rich, sorrow can be 10 times because money comes with complications. Yes. But the wealth of the scripture is wealth. He says wealth without sorrow. Yeah. The blessing of the Lord adds wealth, and he brings no sorrow with it. And that's the wealth that God asks us to follow. So for me, sorry, I feel like I'm preaching here.
This is so good. Continue, yeah.
But I feel like this is what we need to teach us. So I've written 2 books about, actually I've written a lot of books about money, but there's one called Kingdonomics. That one I wrote to help. Actually, both these last 2 have been for pastors. Because I wrote books for people, like books that teach people how to save, how to invest as Christians. Yeah. But the last 2 I wrote for pastors. The first one is called Kingdonomics. I wrote that about 2 years ago. And it's teaching people how do you turn the church into an economic entity. Because every church should be an economic entity. Yeah. And if you just want a little example, look at the what are they called? There's a few Muslim groups in this country. There's one called the Boras that is not too far from here. Yeah. That have become economic units as a community. And because of that, you can't put them down.
They're forced to reckon with.
They are forced to reckon with. Yeah. You know, these guys who own the Aga Khan hospital, again, the Ismailis, they are economic unit. You know, Ismailis don't pay to use Aga Khan. Huh?
Wow.
It's free. You know. The best hospital in the region, they don't pay because they have an economics that is a system. Now we as Christians, we try to fight systems as individuals. You can't fight a system as an individual. It's only systems that fight systems.
Bro.
So we have to learn systems. We have to learn economic systems. We have to learn political systems. That's why Christians always put their hand up to go into politics, to go and reform it, and none of them ever succeed. Why is that? Because individuals can't reform systems.
They end up being swallowed up.
Yeah, because you're an individual. The system will swallow you up. Yeah. You have to go in as a system. Yeah. And again, look at our friends, the Muslims. They're a system. Yeah. They don't get swallowed up. They change the system. So unfortunately, all these things are in the scripture, but we don't read the Bible for ourselves to understand we can actually create systems. Yeah. So Kingdonomics is about systems. This other one called Kingdom Generosity. It's more a manual to help pastors teach their people generosity from the scripture.
Yeah.
There's been a lot that has gone out there, Panda Mbegu, 316, all those things.
Only go to benefit the guy who's
which are all
for them
benefiting the pastor, which is horrible, because now the problem is then, as Christians, then we become suspicious. We throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Not understanding every instruction about giving in the scripture had a promise attached to it.
Yeah.
And when you begin to understand the promises of God concerning money, you stop being afraid of money.
Yeah.
Actually, money becomes a tool for you.
Yeah.
You know, there's some very powerful things that I've learned about money in the scripture that reform us, that have caused us to be, the Bible says, "Poor, love your enemies."
Yeah.
Do you know that for when they say plant a seed, for me, one of the things I teach people about seed is very different. I teach people, when you have an enemy, send them money. Plant a seed in their lives. Your seed is your weapon. That seed will change your relationship. I tell people, honor. The Bible says, honor your father and mother, that you may live long, it may go well for you in the land that the Lord is giving you. Don't just tell them honor, respect, salute. Send your parents money.
Take care of them
every month. No, send them money. Don't just take care of them. Send them money. Not because they've asked you, but even when they don't need it. Send them an honor gift. And I'm telling you, Moz, the testimonies I can give you, the stories I can give you from our church of people who their entire family system has shifted. A system that was toxic, people did not talk to each other, but somebody, probably even the last one, started honoring the parents. And everything in the family changed because of the power of the seed. Wow. So I think the Bible teaches us things that we're not aware of. We need to understand our book, because it's our book, it's our manual, and then start living it when it comes to our finances.
I love that. One of my key takeaways from this conversation, Pastor M, is I think everything you've talked about has come from your place of surrender. Living your life like this before God, and Galatians 2:20, as you've said, I've been crucified with Christ. I no longer live, but
Christ lives in me.
I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I
live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and who gave his life for me.
That's it. Is that life of just total and complete surrender, because you have everything to gain, both in this life and in the life to come. And just listening to your story, it's, if you never surrendered that day in Garissa, a place of hardship,
I don't know who I would be today.
No, we'll not be having this conversation.
Wealth without sorrow, I keep telling people in our church, wealth without sorrow is the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
The house, you've been to my house.
Yes.
I didn't use a shilling of my salary to build that house. A shilling of
my salary. I love
it,
by the way. Yeah.
God provided it.
Yeah.
It's such a ridiculous story. When I tell you, you laugh and think those things don't happen.
Yeah.
The miraculous is not achieved. You don't enter the miraculous through proclaiming and through decreeing and proclaiming. No, you enter the miraculous through surrender. Because that surrender is the language that unlocks heaven's resources. Yeah. And you don't do it manipulated, because you can't manipulate surrender.
No.
Surrender is when I become a slave of Jesus.
Yeah.
Paul says, I'm a slave of Christ.
Yeah.
He says, I'm the least of the apostles. In fact, I'm the worst. He knows it. I don't deserve it. He's given up any claim. He says, the things that I considered important, I now consider dung, rubbish, that I may gain Christ.
Philippians 3.
And it's not a religious place, by the way. It's a place where you just understand, I cannot do anything for myself.
Yeah.
But Christ can do everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I genuinely am in that place, and I think it's not for super saints. This is the normal Christian life.
Yeah.
Every one of us was meant to live this way. Yeah. And when we do, then you live in that place where it's like, okay, I'm an ambassador.
Yeah.
Because if this country sends you to Japan as the ambassador, trust me, you will not have to ask, and who will pick me from the airport? And where will they take us? And what about school for my kids? Somebody has sorted out all that.
Yeah.
Ambassadors land in a country and the government picks them up in a limousine and shows them where they're going to stay.
Yeah.
Their meal budget has already been sorted.
Yeah.
Because there's no country that can send you as an ambassador and not provide for you. We are Christ's ambassadors.
Yeah.
And the minute we begin to realize that and we stop having our own agenda and start representing the agenda of the country that sent us, boom, watch provision follow us. Yeah.
Can't even add to that, man.
Amen.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. Man, Dude, you make me preach, man. I came here to be cool and easy. I found like I hope I haven't overpreached, man. But it's been fun. I mean, thank you for allowing me to share that.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, not as a cool thing to say,
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely think Jesus wants surrendered sons and daughters.
I mean,
and I think as we begin to surrender, we stop having a like, I feel when I surrender, I start realizing I'm not better than anyone.
Yeah.
I'm not in Mavuno because I was so smart.
Yeah.
God just picked me. He picked the least likely person, the person who somebody laughed their way into salvation because of him. Yeah. That's the one he picked as a pastor. I start to realize I don't deserve anything.
Yeah.
You know, God has given it to me.
Yeah.
And all I can do is give my life to him. Yeah. And I really do feel like the days are evil. The Bible talks about the evil days. I feel like we're in those evil days.
Yes.
None of us has any guarantee of what tomorrow is going to look like. I feel like the future is changing so fast. Mm-hmm. I can't even predict what kind of world my kids are going to grow up in, if that world will even be there still. Yeah. The only thing we can do is live for Jesus. Yeah, let's live for that one call.
Recklessly abundant.
Recklessly abundant.
Yeah.
That's a book. That's the name of the book, I think. I like that one better.
As long as you give me the credit.
Okay, done.
Guys, I've been hanging out with Pastor M from Mavuno Church, and this is my first podcast of 2026.
Wow.
And it's such a good way to be able to start it.
And it's number 99, let me remind you.
This is number 99.
Yep. Yeah, I missed 100, but yeah, I did 99.
This is so good. He left the 99.
Oh, yeah, come on. I like it. I take it.
Oh, man, this is so good. And it's a great way for us to be able to start the year. And I hope, friends, that you've been blessed by the conversation that we've had today. So if you've loved the podcast, go ahead, like, subscribe, share the podcast, especially with your enemies. Let this be the seed that you sow into their lives. I'll see you. May God be with you. May God bless you. And thank you so much for catching us on this podcast. Peace and God bless.